So that takes care of mandatory hardware. There was a time many, many years ago when you was just about through at that point. There weren't that many items in this next list, so I'll go ahead and close that. Here's your optional hardware. Now, you won't have all of these things. You'll have a select few. I think some of these should be moved over to the mandatory, like battery monitor, telemetry radio, uh, airspeed sensor, probably. Uh, but it's not the way it is. So you do have to come in here. There are also some things in here that are more configuration than setup, but I guess this is the setup part. The motor test, it's nothing you set up or anything. It's just you can turn your motors on here to test which direction they're spinning, etc., etc., etc. Compass motor calibration is actually a calibration that not sure it shouldn't be in mandatory. What happens with this one real quick is, you'll see it on the flame wheel soon, is you start this and then you run your throttle up real high and hold it there 5 or 6 seconds and then drop it, and this produces a graph. And then it goes into it and calibrates compass compensation for changes in current and magnetic fields, all sorts of stuff. Basically interference, as it says right here. So this one's sort of configuration area, places to look at stuff. It's a little, it's not as straightforward as mandatory. This, I don't even know what it is. I have never been in there, so I don't really care. This is your telemetry radios, and they cannot be set up while you're connected. Another strange dealy. Um, see, failed to enter command mode even going into here. So you basically, if you're disconnected on the right COM port and click here, these are pretty much all set up. And this is really for advanced topics. Basically in here, the only thing you'd really want to do is if it was 2 new radios, you'd want to copy the required stuff to the remote. That's it. If you don't have a CAN bus, you don't care. Battery monitor, I'm going to have to go in and figure out where the battery monitor line is on the 765 wing. I guess that is done by going into the documentation for the 765 wing. It's end of lifetime. This doesn't even appear in their main products list anymore, if you can believe that one. So let's see, buried someplace in all this text, we might find out what we need to do for battery monitoring, and we might not. I'm not going to chase it right this second, because again, as you notice, I really want to see if barometer here, digital airspeed sensor, onboard voltage, battery voltage, pin 12. There we go. LT11 onboard current sensor, pin 13. So we're going to try onboard battery voltage, onboard current sensor. We're going to try pin 13 for starters. Whoops, that's not where I need to go. So, analog voltage and current sensor. I think it's more or less this. No, I'm going to have to play with this a little more. And see what I'm not understanding right here is because, again, I'm trying to make this simple for people. I normally don't work in there. I come over here to battery current pin. Ah, look, I can find it easily here. Why isn't it over here? Why isn't it here? So battery current pin. I guess this frustrates me a little. So I guess I can really see why it frustrates a lot of other people. Battery current 13, and this documentation said battery current pin 13. So if 13 doesn't work, I'll try 12 because there's a little bit of a conflict here. Oops. Here's this one that says pin 4. I don't have an external sensor, so we'll try 13 for starters. And I hate that you have to come over here to really get that easily. That's the default. So battery monitor 2. I don't have a second monitor. UAV can. Not running CAN bus. Not going to do a joystick. I will do the compass motor compensation later. I don't have a rangefinder. I do have an airspeed sensor. I will use airspeed. Now we're back to that same stuff, but I don't think airspeed information comes off of this page. This is more frustration with the documentation for Maytech. I don't see it here. ArduPilot mapping. Quickly come in here and look and see if we can airspeed. Looks like airspeed 10 pin 10 type 2. We can try that. I keep going the wrong place. What'd that say? Pin what? Look at this. I know that is an I2C airspeed sensor. So that could be pin 65, and that doesn't actually happen. This is 10, and when I just looked over there, I didn't see a pin 10. So I'm just going to click use airspeed now. Don't have an optical flow sensor, either kind. This is not the OSD that's in the 765 or 743 or any Maytech flight controller. These are external flight controllers. And what you're doing here is simply telling a secondary telemetry port that you want to output. Camera gimbal, this is going to be pretty cool for me because on 9 and 10, I'm going to come in here and say servo 9 and stabilize tilt. Therefore, whoops, I can't click there. I'll have to see why later. Stabilize roll on 10. Oh well, I'll play with those later. I will try to do those. I've done these on the rover. They work really good. Don't see any reason to do any. Yeah. Motor test. When your battery's plugged in, this will come up. Bluetooth setup, parachute, antenna tracker. All the rest of this, I don't use. So that's basically me going through that list, trying to show you how sort of the flow is of ArduPilot on a setup. But now you can see My flight mode stayed. My flight mode channel stayed. Basic tuning, not going to get deep into this. This is PIDs. This is all going to be advanced tuning when you come in here and start working in these areas. And you're going to have to. Myself, I worked just straight out of the advanced parameters list. That's all we had to start with. I had to know that. So when I learned that in the original days, I've just learned the new parameters as they've come out on each new version, and I've pretty much worked in there and left the rest alone. I jump around in it a lot. This is where you configure the OSD that's inside the Maytech flight controllers. Move all your stuff around. We'll go into that detail. I haven't worked in here. User perimeters. This is where, let's see, 9, 10, 11 is my mode, 8. See, I can come in here and say this is my return to launch is now on RC8. So that leaves me 5, 6, and 7 for other things at this point. I'm going to be working through this full perimeter list next for the setup of the mini Talon, and you'll see how this goes as I work through this. This can go very quickly. So the last thing I'm going to do is customary write perimeters to the flight controller and save to file everything I've done tonight. So that's the first of our overview. That's the first of our setting up the mini Talon's flight controller. You can see out here I've got a GPS 3D fix with 7 satellites. I'm in my basement. It's amazing. Last night and tonight the GPS has been locking up in the basement just really easily and quickly. I haven't been having to take it outside like I have for the past 6 months. It has not wanted to lock up. Nothing's wanted to lock up in this basement in the past 6 months. I don't know why. Maybe it's gotten a little cooler and some of the leaves are falling off the trees. I have no idea. For kicks and grins right now, I'm just going to quickly throw a battery on this. And you can see right here, I do have battery voltage. So I don't have to do a whole lot more on that pin. I just have to calibrate it. Yeah, here we have battery up here. You notice all sorts of things up here are starting to turn from red. God, I hate that noise on those. We'll go back to manual mode and quieten that junk down. It was probably in a battery failsafe or something. So now the servos are quiet over there. I could even probably arm against that failsafe. It is armed. No RC receiver. Actually, there is an RC receiver in there. I just don't have my radio turned on. If I turn on my radio, that little red should go away. Whoop. You can hear that it works. Why is that saying no RC receiver? My servos work. My motor works, but oh, no RC receiver went away. And the thing fell over on its side, as you can see again, because of the battery weight. Anyway, that's all I'm really going to do tonight. It fell over the other way, of course. So that's basically how ArduPilot works for just about everything. Going through the setup list and then things you have to do over here. Oops, I keep accidentally hitting the throttle. I think that no RC receiver is coming up because my handheld radio is just too close. I have never seen that before. Anywhere, anytime, ever. And I've got a green light on my receiver, so that's probably still some little setup that we'll be doing later. I hope that wasn't too hard on you guys. We'll go ahead and disarm, and it'll say, are you sure you want to disarm? You're still flying. Yeah. And here, airspeed 1 not healthy, all sorts of stuff. We'll have to work on all that later. All right, it's almost midnight. I got about 4 hours to finish this up and wind down. I will catch you guys tomorrow. Have a good one, and thank you all so much.